Welcome to Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm Jocelyn Hardrick, founder and president of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the company behind this podcast and other great programs, like Journey to Esquire Scholarship and Leadership Program, which provides $2,000 cash scholarships to third-year law students and internships to second-year law students, along with leadership training and mentors. And Journey to Esquire, the blog, which provides insightful articles to help navigate you through law school and beyond. Find out more on our website, www.journeytoesquire.com. Hi, it's Jocelyn Hardrick, your host of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. I'm also the founder of Diversity Access Pipeline, Inc., the nonprofit behind this podcast, and Journey to Esquire, the Scholarship and Leadership Program, and Journey to Esquire, the blog. Today, we pass the mic to Assita Toure. She holds a special place in my heart. Assita was in our pilot program, so the first class of the Journey to Esquire program in 2019. She graduated from Stetson University College of Law, and she's been up to some very interesting things since she graduated from the program. I'm going to link her original presentation in the show notes so you can take a look and compare her journey then to now. And I'm going to allow her to kind of pick up where that presentation fell off. Hi, Assita.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. And we're glad to have you now as a board member, which is such a testament to the program that you're the second graduate of the program who decided to join the board. So let's go back in time and talk about how your legal career has evolved since graduating from the Journey to Esquire program.
Yeah, so graduating, I started at the public defender's office, which was much different than what I was expecting. I actually had internship and I was a law clerk with a insurance defense firm while I was in law school. So all 3 years I had done that, and it looked like I was going to stay at that firm after law school. And I had a change of heart once I graduated because I really wanted some trial experience. And in law school, they tell you a lot, like when you go into the civil space, you're not going to get that much trial experience. So that's where the mindset I was coming from. I knew I wanted to be a judge and I knew I needed that courtroom experience in order to further my career. So I really wanted to start with that opportunity. And then also, I just wanted to give back. Being a public defender, I felt was my opportunity to be able to help people who were less fortunate, weren't able to afford attorneys, and just anyone, who needed it at that time. So I thought that work would play both helping my career and also allowing me to give back to the community as well. So that's where I started. And it's been a crazy journey since. I've been to a couple of other places after that. After leaving the public defender's office, I went to a firm to do insurance defense, which it's a larger firm, and we were representing some big name clients, some really, really, really big name clients. And it was a culture shock because it was just a new area of law, and then also the requirements that we had because of how big our clients were. Obviously every client, you're supposed to be representing them zealously, but these specific clients, they would have extra steps and extra rules because they were big multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar corporations where they needed you to do extra things because they had different needs than, a smaller hometown business would have. So that was a big journey for me. So I did that for about 2.5 years. And then after leaving that firm, I am now in-house, and I've been here for about 6 or 7 months now. So still new, still getting my feet wet, but that's also just completely different experience as well.
Yeah, so would you say the learning curve is really steep when you graduate from law school?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely learned a lot of foundational things while I was in law school, but actually doing it, actually being there is completely different. And I started at the public defender's office where we were going to the jail. I had never been to a jail before. I had never, dealt with anything like that. So to be in a jail every single day, that was one, obstacle to overcome. And then also having to meet your clients, and they don't teach you as much about the interpersonal relationships and managing your clients and helping them and those types of conversations. That was something I had to learn on the way. Every client is different. Every client has different needs. So that was to me, was my biggest learning curve, like being able to deal with different personalities.
Yeah, and then transitioning to a law firm with billable hours.
Oh,
Yes,
I can
the
laugh
horrid
now because
billable
I'm not
hour.
billing anymore, but oh,
Yeah,
yes.
so I like to
Uh,
explain to people that billable hours are like minutes in playing time for a sport. So, like, my
mhm,
husband would watch football. He said, "There's 5 minutes left in the game." And I come back 10 minutes later and the game's still going. I'm like, "I thought you said there was 5 minutes left in the game." He's like, "No, no, there's 5 minutes of playing time. They called a timeout, then they got a foul, then they did this, then they did that. And
mhm,
the another person called the timeout. Then there's the kick after the field goal after the touchdown, and right. And so billable hours are like that. It's not just the amount of time that passes while you're at work. It's
mhm.
specific time when you're working towards a particular goal for a particular client. And then each client, like you said, has very specific ways they want you to write the billing. And then billing takes like an hour, a few hours a week by itself, but you can't bill for billing.
Yep, yep, yep.
Wow.
It
So
was such a big transition. I think God had a different experience because the public defender's office that I was working at the time, we started during COVID. So that was also another very weird thing that we dealt with. And they wanted us to submit weekly logs of what we were doing. So that kind of helped me, cushion me once I got to the law firm, because I kind of knew already, okay, you're keeping track of what you're doing on a daily basis. But once I actually got into it, I just realized how intricate it is. Every client has different guidelines on what you can bill, how you can bill, learning how to phrase things, learning what things go together. It's like a whole science. It's its a whole own thing, and you have to make sure you're meeting your hours. That's one of the biggest things at the firms. They might not say a lot of things to you, but one thing they will say something to you about is your time. If your time is not in, if you're not meeting your billable requirements, that is like the biggest thing that could give you a scarlet letter at a firm, because they want to make sure, you're keeping track of the work that you're doing, and that's how they get paid, by their billables. So they're wanting to make sure their attorneys are keeping up with that. Some firms have higher billable hours. I thought mine was average. It was okay, but it still was hard meeting that every month.
what was your billable hour requirement per year?
1,900 hours, which is really good compared to some of the other firms and some of the people that I know. Some people have 22, 21. 1,900 hours, I would do like 165 to 170 hours a month, which that's a lot too. So I can't imagine. Some people are doing 180 to 200 a month, which that comes out to like 40 to 50 hours a week, depending on, I think 180 would be like 55 to 60 hours a week. So yeah, it's tough.
It is. Yeah. And again, that's not 55 to 60 hours of work time. That's
Right,
billable time, right? Remember, it's
right.
like game time. Just the
Yeah.
fact that you're there or driving to
Mhm,
work or even spending time billing, filing, meetings with
mhm.
staff, none of that stuff counts.
Yep. And there
So
would
you
be
got to
daily
be very
meetings. I had
mindful.
to speak with my assistant and my paralegal and making sure we're on the right track. And that doesn't count. So you kind of you'll stay later to make sure, well, I needed to talk to my assistant. I needed to talk to my paralegal. That had to be done. But now I need to make up that hour I just spent talking to them. So it's just, yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And then now you're in-house. So you've had a lot of different experiences in a short period of time. Talk to us about a little bit what got you into insurance defense in the first place.
Yeah, so I actually started when I was in law school. I was working for a firm in St. Pete, and we were doing insurance defense. And I actually got in because they were doing trucking law. My dad owned a trucking company growing up, so I had a little bit of experience with the trucking industry. I helped him run his company while I was in college. So I had that experience, and I used that as the knowledge that I had in the trucking industry. That's A majority of my cases were in trucking law and trucking litigation. So that's how I got into insurance defense, because I thought that was cool. It was like, oh, I've been doing this all my life. This might just be an extension of that. So that was really cool. And then after that, I got to my firm that after the public defender's office, and I was in their trucking litigation division. So I was handling for a very large corporation all of their trucking cases. So anytime something happened with their trucks, transporting their products, anything, essentially was handling those types of cases. So
yeah, and those cases are like multi-million-dollar cases, right? Because if we remember that comedian, he was in a collision with a big truck, and that was a multi-million-dollar settlement. And it's been, and then it gets in the news a lot because of that. And there's a lot of trucks that we learned during COVID, or when COVID started lifting, there was all these supply chain issues. And now we learned, oh, okay, this is the role that trucks and these big barges in the water play in us getting our everyday products that we rely on. And so, and I'll give you more credit now. You had a little more than a little bit of experience with trucking. You were practically running your father's trucking business and wrapping that up and everything. So it's interesting. Things that you do before law school can really end up playing a big role in your success and opportunities for you as a lawyer. Like for me, my mom is one of these people that won't answer a straight question, like no matter what you ask her. And so I'm a master at cross-examination because I spent my whole life cross-examining my mom to get a straight answer out of her. So never underestimate, these experiences you have in your life and how they can help you when you're a lawyer. So what surprised you about your experience in the program?
In the program, I'm surprised at how the connections, I've been able to keep those connections throughout, and it's really, really helped me with all of my career opportunities after that. But honestly, it might not be the most interesting part, but the writing program. Personally, one of my biggest challenges is writing. Writing was the hardest thing for me. I had experienced a lot of difficulty with that in law school. So I personally needed a lot of help in that area. And I learned a lot through our writing workshop that we had during the Journey Through Esquire program when I was doing that. And I've developed over time with my writing skills and just knowing like certain things are very important when you're writing to the court, when you're writing to your client, when you have to have different tones when you're writing to different people. All of that I've used from the public defender's office to now to when I was at my insurance defense firm. I'm using it all the time. So for me, I think that was a skill that I really, really needed that workshop.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear it because I know, it's not the sexiest thing, right? Because we have some interesting stuff. We have professionalism and LinkedIn and social media, and then we have mentoring where you get to meet all these great people, and we have the wellness one, which people really touches people's lives. But sometimes those technical ones, the bar prep one and the legal writing, those are two areas where marginalized students really suffer, like you said, particularly in the Black community. We're known for being, very good speakers, but not very good writers. And even when we are good writers, we're perceived as being weak writers. And so people look even harder for mistakes in our writing. It's interesting if you look at the studies around that. If you change the name of the person on the resume so it can quote unquote sound Black, they'll find more errors than if you put another name that isn't as obvious what ethnicity it is, even though it's the same resume. They'll find more errors in the one with the woman, the one with the person of color, etc. And so it's really important for our program that legal writing is always going to be a part of it because, like you said, it makes such a big difference. Sometimes it's the only way a court or your client's ever going to meet you is through your writing. And if it's not strong, they're going to make all kinds of assumptions. You could be the greatest trial lawyer, but if they find a few typos in the correspondence email, that's it,
And it's so important because even with job interviews nowadays, most of these jobs are asking for writing samples. So you need to have something strong that they're going to be able to read prior to you even going to meet them. They want to see that before they even schedule the interview. So writing is just one of the biggest things that I've experienced that it's helped me with. And especially with when I was at the law firm, the client that I had, they expected us, no mistakes. we need to come in and it needs to be right. Everything needs to make sense. So that was something that really helped me in that, because I already knew I'm struggling in this area. I do need to take more time to make sure that when I submit something, it's good.
Yeah.
And now I get the feedback that, oh, this is way too detailed. And this is like that is the feedback I get now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about writing. You have to keep evolving and you got to know your audience. And now, there's something that we didn't have in 2019, AI, artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, depending on who you ask, and predictive text, right? Which can predict some things. It can help you, but you still can't just rely on it. So now the legal writing seminar has evolved because we have to take into account AI and the best ways to use it, and so that you're still professional and you're not plagiarizing, and that you're making sure you're still talking to your audience. Because I can tell when something's AI compared to someone else's writing. So students are always shocked. I'm like, no. I know when it's the first draft, right? Because I know what to look for.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's a valuable lesson besides the legal writing and how important it is that you took with you that's like still resonating with you now from the program?
I think that another area that I personally experienced a lot of hardship in was networking. I can be a little bit shy sometimes, getting myself out there, which is why for me, I push myself and I want to be involved in the organizations, and I do take leadership roles because I know that that's my weak spot. I kind of force myself in those areas. And I think that is something I got from the program. We were put out there, to do all of these programs we had to do at the end, our presentation, speaking in front of a large group of people, those types of things. I think it helped to give me that confidence. And, you're going to have to be speaking in front of people. You're going to have to be doing all of these things. So get comfortable with it now. So it kind of helped me in that area. And I definitely think that I've developed a lot with my speaking abilities. I mean, I've gone to trial so many times now, and that is something that carries over into those areas as well.
Oh yeah, I can definitely tell even just from this podcast interview. When you first gave your presentation, you were so nervous. And we were all rooting for you. Do you remember? It was like the room was filled, and then Luis went first, and everyone was crying, and the keynote speaker, gave a great speech, and it was just all love and support. But as you can see, you go out to trial, you go out to these clients, you go to these bar association meetings. It's not always going to be like that, right? Sometimes there's people waiting to pounce on you, and you have to be confident in yourself. So yeah, very good. Have you watched your presentation since you gave it?
I did, and I was like, oh, cringy. It was so long ago, and it feels, I can feel my growth after watching that, seeing myself where I was at then and now. I'm like, oh my goodness.
That's what's important, to see your growth. Yeah, and that was the last in-person presentations we had because of COVID. And for the class of 2024, we're doing it in person again. And so we're excited, because, the Zoom just became convenient. And now we're like, I think we're ready to go back, especially we're celebrating our 5th year anniversary. And, we're really excited with our 6th class of students, and trying to get them ready for doing that in person too. So, so I guess we'll see how it goes.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, the year I graduated was really interesting because COVID happened. I graduated in 2019 and COVID happened. The pandemic occurred the year after, and practice is completely different now in criminal and in civil. In criminal, I did one of the first Zoom trials when I was at the public defender's office, and I did it was just a trial run where we did a trial. It was a misdemeanor case, and we did it over Zoom, just like me and you are talking right now. And it just hadn't been done before previously. And now it's just such a normal part of our everyday lives. Like, I go to court on Zoom, I do hearings on Zoom, all my depositions are on Zoom. We don't really have that much in-person interaction anymore. So it was a lot different. When we came out, it was like, we have this new area where we're doing everything virtually, and even experienced attorneys were having difficulties with that because, not everybody likes to do everything on the computer. virtually. So that is still a challenge we're facing, but it's interesting. I think it's easier though. It's better for us.
Yes, it's a double-edged sword. So, like you said,
Mhm.
all these super experienced lawyers now feel like they are vulnerable because they don't know how to do all this technology. And the young people getting on there like it's nothing. Like I did my whole law school on Zoom. Like,
Yeah.
here's my exhibits, right? So, as
Yeah.
a person who's more skilled in that area, but
Mhm.
not more skilled as an attorney, you have to recognize that's a value that you can bring to the more experienced attorneys. And so you exchange values. Like, okay, I'll help you out this Zoom thing, but you got to give me tips on depositions, right? And cross-examination and entering evidence and help me get those kinds of skills down. And then
Mhm.
the other side is sometimes professionalism can go out the window. There's
Mhm.
been people caught like coaching their clients, text messaging them. People forget, because a judge is not on the bench looking down at them in person, that they're technically in a court and there's a certain amount of decorum that needs to
Mhm.
happen because
Mhm.
people's emotions are so elevated when you're in a trial, even if it's civil or criminal. Sometimes civil people act up more than criminal, right? And
Yeah.
they get those, well, I forget what that's called, courage pills or whatever, because by text and by phone, people act real tough, but then when they're in person, their demeanor changes. So if you're a young person and you're used to all the Zoom stuff, just remember, treat it like you're in the courtroom. Do not like get too lax with it, because then you could mess up your whole case, or these judges now, they're not playing. They're reporting you to the bar if they see anything or suspect anything. So don't even avoid even the appearance of impropriety. That is the standard. What's something you heard while you were in the program that you thought, "Oh, I don't know about that," but you've seen it come to fruition since you've been practicing?
I think with the civil practice, understanding the differences between civil and criminal and how the getting to trial in criminal and getting to trial in civil are different. It didn't click for me prior to actually being an attorney. In criminal, we were going to trial much faster, at shorter rates, getting all of these cases off of our plate early on. In civil, it's, you can have a case from 2018 and you're just now going to trial this year in 2023. And the preparation that goes into that, I couldn't conceptualize it until I was doing it. Preparing for a trial in civil is different than preparing for a trial in criminal. Obviously, you still have to, do all the things, your motions, your depositions, all of that. But most of the time when I was in criminal, I was in the juvenile and misdemeanor divisions where our trials would be 1 to 2 days. Now I'm preparing to be in trial for an entire week, sometimes 2 weeks. And it's just the prep that goes into it. Like before my trials in civil, I was preparing for one case for 3 to 4 weeks prior to. We were working weekends, we were working up until, and I think that people hear public defender's office and they hear how it drains your body, but civil, really, for me, I was tired. I was tired. We were working around the clock. It wasn't uncommon for me to work 6 days a week sometimes. If I had a trial, I was working 7 days a week for sure. The last trial I did before leaving, I definitely worked a month straight. Every single day I was doing something touching that trial case before we went to trial. And that's important because you need to prepare for these kids. You don't realize how many motions you have to write, how many depots you have to take. All of these issues come up last minute. I didn't realize how complex civil was compared to criminal. So
Yeah, we had for your year, we had Howard Williams and Suzanne Duque Copain. So Howard was in the PD's office and Suzanne was in the state attorney. And they had both worked in civil as well. So in their time management Zoom, they were like, hey, let's explain to you some of these differences. And like you said, it's just really hard to conceptualize. And there's a saying, civil practice isn't very civil. I think you've seen that.
Yeah.
In criminal law, you see the same people over and over again. So you better act right because you're going to need a favor from that person soon. But then civil, most lawyers do civil. And so you might not ever see them again. And so some people act up, they'll be mean or they'll be short or they won't give you courtesy extensions and they'll make you go to court and do a song and dance. And then judges hate that, but there's only so much they can do to control it, right? And judges hate when you're unprepared. So your level of preparation is what's necessary to do a good job. And so that's what's tough about, law practice. This is why we have to work so long.
Mhm.
Why
Mhm.
we have to train so hard in law school. I'm a
Mhm.
professor now, and the students are like, is it that serious? Yes. I said, you bet not ever in your life show up in a courtroom and say, I was your professor.
Mhm.
Half stepping.
Mhm. Yep.
Take that
Come with
mediocrity
your
somewhere
cases.
else.
Come with everything. Come with your cases. I actually, on Monday, had a hearing with a judge that I interned for when I was in law school. And, just having the case law, there was an issue that, new case law came out. The judge hadn't heard about it yet. Being able to just quickly say, hey, here's the case that, and it was a motion to dismiss. I did win because of that case that I was able to show him, like, hey, here, there's new case law that we have that's out. So all of that's really important. If I didn't do the research ahead of time, if I hadn't prepared myself prior to going into that hearing, I wouldn't have known because it's new. It just came out. Most people don't know about it. So those are all things that come in with your preparation. You have to be ready to, change the way you're going to argue right now, depending on the question the judge asks, depending on the argument that your opposing counsel has. You just have to be on your toes at all time. And in order to do that, you need to be prepared.
Oh, yes. Especially
Mhm.
now with Zoom hearings, the judge is on their computer. They're like, what's the case site? And they just pop that in or have their
Yep.
clerk do it and say, here you
Yep.
go, judge. It says it right
Mhm.
there. And the judge is like, oh,
Mhm.
case dismissed. And they're your happy client, happy judge. Because the
Mhm.
judge wants the case off the docket if they can get it, right? If the case can be
Yep.
resolved, they want to resolve it right there. So wow, it sounds
Exactly.
like you've really grown into a wonderful attorney, young lady. So
Oh,
proud of you.
thank you.
Um, So how do you maintain this work-life balance? Because you've talked a lot about all these long hours you've been working. Some people don't like the word work-life balance. I really like to think of it as your life and work is a part of it, right? But sometimes, like you're describing, it becomes a really big part of it. How do you
Mhm.
balance it all?
I think I had to learn this over time because I didn't understand the work-life balance. I was really so concerned about making sure I was able to perform that I neglected the personal side and I didn't see, well, that's not that important right now because, work, I have this stuff due for work and I need to get this stuff for work, but it drains you and it doesn't make you as good in your work. When you're drained and your mind is tired, you're not able to perform as well at your job. So I think it's 100% important to take that time out for yourself. And I've been able to, transition, I guess. And I think that for me, traveling, spending time with my family and my siblings is something that helps me with my work-life balance. Now I usually will plan a trip out like maybe 6 months. Like right now, I have a trip planned for 6 months, and it gives me something to look forward to, something to keep, in my bad days. I'm like, okay, 6 more months, I'm gonna be on an island, I'm gonna be on a beach or something like that. For me, that's helpful, just knowing I have something coming up. But when you're facing the work, it will become draining. And so I think that most people need to you know, focus on your family life and your friends and all of that as well.
Yeah, I think Michelle Obama had explained it really well. She said she looks at, like around the end of the year, a lot of people are or at least I do planning for the next year, right? You're reflecting on what went well this year, what didn't. And, at the time we're recording this, it's the end of the year. And so she said she looks at her whole calendar for the year, puts all the family and the fun stuff in first. Then
Mm-hmm.
all the work stuff has to be put in around it. And so, like you were explaining, you were putting all the work stuff in first and trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to fit this other stuff in. And that, for the short term, you'll be okay. Then the second year, you're like, oh, then by the third year, like yeah, you're ready to pull your hair out and have to like transition and make a big change in order to get back to the other way. So that's a good
Yeah.
tip, y'all. Keep that in mind. I know law students, especially if you're a law student right now listening, you think you're busy.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're busy.
Yeah.
You don't know busy yet. So
You
some of them
don't
are. I
know
know
it.
some people working with kids and spouses, and I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, you're busy. But other folks,
Yeah.
if you're like you and I were full-time law
Mhm.
school, yeah, you have some activities and stuff, and it
Mhm.
feels overwhelming, but it is nothing compared to the practice of law. So get
Yeah.
ready. What message do you have for students who are currently in the program, thinking about law school or in law school now?
My message is to believe in yourself and not give up. I didn't have any experiences with anyone who had been in the legal profession myself, so I didn't know what to expect. And it kind of, the imposter syndrome, it made me feel like, well, am I going to be able to do this? Like I said, hearing that podcast that I did, in 2019 compared to where I am now, I've grown so much. So just believe in your journey and just know, everything's going to be okay. You'll find your way. Even if you start somewhere you don't want to be, you will find your way to where you want to be eventually. So believe in yourself.
Yeah, when you said imposter syndrome, I remembered. Do you remember the session and Gio Giortana, who's still a friend of the program? We were having a little leadership session, I think, and you said that I feel like I have imposter syndrome. Everyone was crying. Gio was like gave this passionate speech, and it was just I knew in that moment that this program was going to be something special when that happened.
Yeah.
Because one, you felt safe enough to be so vulnerable. I'm like, oh, she's getting deep here. And then Gio just like rose to the occasion, and it was just the most like moving moment. And I felt like I definitely felt a shift in you after that, And I was like, I can't believe Assita doing all these things. Thinks she's not good enough. Like, girl, have you seen yourself and what you're doing?
It's
but
really
you never
hard
know.
when you're in the middle of the situation, when you're working to get somewhere. You're feeling like, well, this person has done this and this person has done that, and they deserve it because, they have all these accolades and I'm not there yet. So, I need to work hard and make sure I get there. But, just believe in yourself and know that every step, every decision you make, every job you get, every opportunity you're afforded is going to build up and lead you to where you need to be eventually.
Yeah, and can I say, as Black women too, we kind of get that message that we have to constantly work and be productive to show our value and worth, and we just have to have a mindset shift about that. And I'm glad that that's getting a lot more attention in the media, and there's a lot more books being written about that. But yeah, Black women are like, yeah, we're no longer mules. So, we will not be treated as such.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
we have to recognize it when we're like bought into that idea and have to just kind of have a mindset shift. And so, wow, let's look forward a little bit, 5-10 years out. Where's Assita gonna be? What she's gonna be doing?
Well, my goal always, honestly, before I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a judge. Like, that's what my mom says it all the time. You always wanted to be a judge. So that's my goal, still on my head. So I'm working on getting there and building my experience and building my connection so I can be able to get to that point. That's definitely somewhere that I want to start exploring and getting into.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to calling you Judge Toure and going to your investiture. I would love to be there. That would be awesome.
Of course.
And then, yeah, I know the whole During the Esquire family gonna show up and show out, and it's gonna be and our family's from the Caribbean, so you got to get like an extra big place for the party, because this can't be no little cocktail reception. It's gonna be an all-out celebration. Everybody, they mama and they grandmama, them, auntie, them, everybody's coming when you become a judge. And so now, back to the present, you have joined the board. Yes. What made you want to join the board of the organization?
This is a little emotional, and I don't think I've said it in these words to you personally, but joining the Journey to Esquire program was very impactful for me at the time. And the money that we received, the scholarship for our bar prep, for me at that time was so necessary. My dad had passed away. I'm sorry. My dad passed away like a year before I joined the program. So it was really hard financially for me and my family. And I was the first one to ever reach that step. First one to have a Juris Doctorate. But I didn't have the financials to, I graduated, I had the grades, but I didn't have the financial, the money I needed to be able to pay for my bar prep program, to stop working for 10 weeks to study for the bar. And for some people, it would feel like this is not that much money. But for me, that changed my life. That actually was what was able to help me even take the bar. So not only did we learn things that would help us be good attorneys, but also that bar prep fund is what helped me become an attorney now. I speak very highly of you and this program, because you never know what people are experiencing and going through, and they may need it. They may need it more than you realize. They may need it, and you might be what can help somebody in their career. So I definitely want to give back to any students who would be joining the program and who need that for themselves. I think it's very, very important to give back to people who have the skills, but not the finances to get to where they want to be.
Oh, yeah. I know your father had passed, but I didn't know that the money was going to be that meaningful to you. And you know what's funny? I was with Kishni, who was another person who was there in the beginning, Kishni Theus, who's now also an attorney. And we were at an event, and I was explaining the program. I said, yeah, we give them a scholarship and give training. And then several lawyers were like, well, what do they need the money for? I was like, she was shocked. I was like, girl, people don't understand. They think, well, you're in law school, you must have money, or there's a fund out there somewhere, or and I'm like, no, some people are getting through law school by the skin of their teeth. They're just getting in, they're pulling, I was wearing I shopped clearance. I remember I went to a job interview in a suit I got from JCPenney on clearance, and then I had the nerve to lose weight, so the skirt kept spinning around. Get a safety pin it up to the shirt, hide it, right? And people are like, why don't you just buy a new suit? I'm like, with what money? Mm-hmm. Like, I took out all these loans to go to law school, and their apartment, their books, their this, that. I don't got money to get hair done, nails done, and travel, and not everyone's living the life in law school. And so I'm glad that you share that, because people really need to understand both things are needed. The soft skills we help you with, the networking, the hard skills like legal writing and preparing for the bar and studying, but also the money. The money is needed by a lot of people. And like you said, you don't know what people are going through. Yeah. I'm not here to judge. With the program, what we do is we meet you wherever you are to help you get to where you're going, completing that journey to Esquire. We want to thank you, Assita, for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be a part of the program and to be on the board and to be with the new students who are going to be graduating soon. But yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you back. I mean, it really is a true testament when people have gone through the program, come back and join the board. Thanks for giving us a second chance on this podcast. Because I know you're probably like the first time.
I'm like, oh, we gotta listen to that already.
Because we recently posted it, because I just, because of our 5th anniversary, I was like, let me get all the past everything and just put it out there so people know all the things that we've done. But listen, your story is going to touch the lives of so many people listening. And so just know that you just keep paying it forward, and we're just going to keep loving on folks, giving out scholarships, supporting students, and creating access to the legal field and creating more judges. So, hey, we'd love for you to be the first, but you'll be the second, the third. All y'all out there want to be judges.
Exactly.
Have some great episodes from people running for judge and who are judges. So look out for that. And we will see you guys next time on the Journey to Esquire podcast. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Journey to Esquire, the podcast. Support, share, subscribe. And for more, visit www.journeytoesquire.com.